a brooding thing is like a bird brooding on a set of eggs. So they're sitting on the edge, they're brooding, they're keeping the eggs warm. The eggs are developing while they're keeping them warm, ready for them to hatch. So that brooding is a process where I am aligning, being aligned to the Father's heart's thoughts and desires. He's revealing them. They are changing me. I'm being entrained, if you like, in terms of resonance. That frequency of his thoughts is bringing me into agreement, so I'm harmonized with it. And when I am harmonized with it and it's fully formed in me, in a sense, then it's ready to go to the next stage. But that could take a minute, it could take an hour, it could take wherever, depending on what needs to happen. How much does God show you and reveal in the process? Is he giving you every detail, or is he sharing his intention and desires and thoughts so that then you can then begin to creatively express those? And I think that's how it works for me. So am I becoming a frequency? Yes, because I am his voice, therefore I am vibrating and resonating with creative energy. I don't hum but that could be a way of expressing that, and people do things like that in a sense, in a meditative way. Sometimes they focus their thinking on a particular thing, or they meditate in a sound, or they use a bowl, or they use a frequency to help focus them. And none of that is wrong, and it's all part of what works for people. For me, it all works inside my head, in a sense of I am aligning, my thoughts are being aligned and entrained to his. So it's that sort of simple process. I hadn't really thought of the mechanics of it, but very clearly, I know a frequency, what it is. God's voice is a frequency, and when God speaks, that frequency vibrates with energy and has creative power to release the result of what he says. So there's no right or wrong exact way, otherwise it will become a formula and everyone would try and copy the formula, rather than embracing the process, and in the process outworking that through you. And if you hum a sound and light responds to it, great. That works for you, all good. For me, it's more, I focus my intention in my thoughts, and those thoughts are active and carry creative power, and then light responds, and the wave function collapses, if you like, in a quantum sense. So I understand the science behind it, and therefore I'm not really so much about the mechanics in that way, but I'm sure other people would do it differently. I know when I've engaged with Nancy, sometimes she does hum, she does make sounds, sometimes quite odd sounds, and they're like, oh, what's going on, but that's part of her way of doing stuff. And I know when we were looking to engage the energy gates, and we did an activation on the energy gates in one of the Restoration of All Things conferences that we did, the first one, I think, she used a number of different sounds, and in saying the sounds, she put a physical action with it that was all part of getting people tuned to it. So there would be a sound, an O or an E or an ow or whatever. There were 7 different sounds, and there were 7 different actions. And when it put together, for me, it was a bit like a line dance. It's like, what's going on? It was like everyone's moving and all this. But she was just trying to break down the process for people. And I've sort of seen something like it in a online movie thing or TV series. I can't remember what it was called. Is it the AO or something? And in that, there was these 3 or 4 people, and they all had one sound, and when they put them together, it made this energy that opened up a portal. And it is like that. You know, you're producing energy. People will do it differently. When I activate the energy gates, I don't make sounds or go and do line dancing. It's like it's not me. You know, I just not how I would do anything in a making a singing and making a dance out of it. But for it would work if that's how it works for you. And certainly Nancy, that's how she did it. You know, for me, it was just like, oh, I just think about activating that gate and intentionally activate it. I don't have to go through sort of waving my arms or doing this or doing the other. But she was doing an exercise to try and get people engaged. And it was the engaging that people, no, I went and did the engagement, and, you know, I felt the energy and the activation while I was doing the engagement. But it's not how I would normally do things myself. But it's okay. And you may find, you know, a particular way of doing it works for you, you know, in producing a physical sound or a movement, you know. And I know in watching the TV thing, each sound had sort of a hand movement, and as people were moving things, literally in the movie thing, they connected to another dimension. It opened something, you know, and I resonated with it because I'd seen Nancy do it. So it was like, oh, they're picking up something prophetic here, which is, you know, Hollywood's sort of way of, you know, showing that. But, you know, I know there's something real about how you engage that and do something like that. If you enjoy these videos, would you please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe? It really does help. Thank you very much.